L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum. This is a remake of the 2005 release, which was called L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme Eau Extreme, also known as Lidge. So this one is the modern reinterpretation of that original scent. Does it smell the same? Does it perform the same? Is it even worth picking up? Is it anywhere near as good as the original Eau Extreme version? Well, I'm going to answer all those questions in the upcoming review here. So if you're interested in this scent, please stick around. You're not going to want to miss this one. Hello everybody, welcome back to Real Scent Review. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you enjoy it. So I'm going to be going over L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum. This is, like I said, the modern interpretation of the 2005 release, L'Instant de Guerlain Eau Extreme. Obviously, these are the Pour Homme versions. So when that fragrance was released, Eau Extreme, in 2005, that was a little bit before I became interested in colognes. I was still pretty young back then. So when that came out, I was not really, aware of all the hype around it, all right? It wasn't until several years later, like 10 years later, in 2015, I remember being at one of my friend's houses and his dad had the original Eau Extreme. And I remember smelling it, and I remember thinking like, whoa, like this smells amazing. The depth to it, at that point, I really wasn't trying to decipher different notes within the fragrance. I just remember it smelling really full, really good. So that was the first experience that I ever had with Eau Extreme. And by the way, before my friend and I would go out, we would steal a couple of sprays from his dad's cologne bottle. I don't know if he ever found out about that. But anyway, and that's the original one from 2005, the one that looks like this. That was discontinued at some point. I'm not sure when it was discontinued, but after that was discontinued, they came out with one that was called L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum in a bottle that looked like this. So very similar to the Eau Extreme, but it didn't have that black outline anymore. Okay, and then after that, several years later, they switched bottles again, and they came out with the Eau de Parfum in this bottle here. And later on, they switched the bottle to the most recent edition, which is this one that you see here. So I'm going to be reviewing this one here, and I will be drawing some comparisons to the original Eau Extreme that came out back in 2005. Okay, so after that lengthy introduction here, let's get into the bottle design here. Guerlain re-released all of their colognes in these large square bottles. I don't really like them. They did the same with the L'Homme Ideal line. I remember in particular L'Homme Ideal L'Intense, when that first came out, that black matte bottle, that was so nice looking. But anyway, since then, they've switched all the designs around to this one here. So it's clear, square. As you can see here, L'Instant Homme Eau de Parfum Guerlain Paris. Okay, on the sides, nothing. These bottles are very plain. I just don't like them very much. The cap, the cap is like the one good thing about this bottle. Clicks into place very firmly. You could pick it up, I guess, with caution, as always. So let's, get into how this smells. Okay, the distribution of the atomizer, I must say, is pretty good. It's wide and it's long. It doesn't dribble. That's good. Can't really ask for more. Ooh, wow, very nice. Okay, so the official note breakdown is the following. In the top, we're given star anise, bergamot, elemi, lemon, and pepper. In the mid, we have cacao pod, sandalwood, smoke, tea, and jasmine. And in the dry down, patchouli is what we're given. So anyway, what I detect is the following. In the top, I get some bergamot, some anise, and a little tiny bit of elemi. In the mid, definitely some cacao pod and some tea. And in the bottom, patchouli and a little bit of sandalwood. The smell is very similar to the smell of the original Eau Extreme, but this one is much, much more airy. It's much less full. It's much less groundbreaking and just stunning as the original Eau Extreme. It's like this is an extremely watered down version of the O Extreme, which is really disappointing because I saw this for sale half a year ago, almost 6 months ago. I had forgotten about it for several years and I was like, oh my God, I have to pick this up. So I looked into it a little bit and I found out this is the most modern interpretation of the classic O Extreme. So I picked it up expecting to relive those memories of my teenagehood. And I mean, I was disappointed. It just didn't have that punch that the original one had. It doesn't have that lasting power. It's just not as full. It's not nearly as full as the original one. I mean, the original one was a room filler. This one is not. And, you know, this is supposed to be an eau de parfum concentration. Really, to me, it does not feel like an eau de parfum concentration. But having said all that, you know, in the top, obviously, we get that star anise, which is kind of like licorice. That's what this kind of whole fragrance line is known for. L'Instant de Guerlain, you know, that licorice note, that anise note, right? So in the top of this one, I do get that mixed with a little bit of bergamot just in the beginning. I find the bergamot kind of wears down fairly quickly. Also, there's a little bit of elemi, which is resinous, and it gives it a bit of a soapy quality right in the beginning. A lot of people say that this is soapy all the way through. I don't get that. I find in the very beginning, for like the first 15 minutes, while that elemi note sticks around, it can be a little bit soapy, I guess. But even then, not overly soapy. So in the mid here, it's the anise I find does kind of stick through to the middle a little bit, but it's the cacao that really becomes apparent in the middle here, the cacao pod. The cacao pod is mixed with the tea note. There's a bit of tea here. It gives it a kind of like a green, herbaceous feel to it. Although the cacao pod is definitely the star of the show, starting in the middle here. And so cacao pod, a lot of you might be thinking, oh, chocolate. Now, it's not sweet. It's very bitter. It's a bitter cacao. If you've ever smelled cocoa powder, like pure cocoa powder, very similar to what you get in this. So it's not really sweet. It's like a bitter cocoa kind of thing going on here, mixed with, like I said, the tea. And in the bottom here, there's some patchouli mixed with a little tiny bit of creamy sandalwood, just a little bit though. But the patchouli definitely is the most prominent note in the dry down. But even though it smells good, I have to admit it does smell very good, very unique too. You know, this is a super unique fragrance. Nothing else that I know of smells anything like this one, except, you know, the O Extreme from this line. But it's just, the smell is good, but the performance is not. The performance is not great. It's airy. It does not feel like an eau de parfum at all. It's very light. There's almost no projection. The longevity is all right. I get maybe 6 hours on my skin, so I consider that to be about average. And like I said, there's very little projection. If it projects at all, it's only for the first half hour, and it's even less than an arm's length. And the sillage, you know, maybe 15 minutes. So the sillage is good, I'll say. But all in all, compared to the original O Extreme, this really falls short. I'm not ashamed to say it. This one just does fall short compared to the original O Extreme, unfortunately, because this is such a good scent, such a good scent. You know, if they hadn't watered this down, I think this would be one of the very best modern men's fragrances for sure. As far as the versatility goes, it's very versatile. I think the weakened performance has something to do with that, because the first one was a real powerhouse. But this one here, very versatile. It's office safe. It's not loud. I would definitely consider wearing this on a very formal date to a fancy outing, right? Maybe fancy restaurant or the opera or something like that. Definitely not a club scent. This will be drowned out by, you know, pretty much any other fragrance in that scenario. You know, work safe for sure. For a formal date also. It's, as far as like temperature, as far as which season I would wear this in, I think it's pretty good for almost any season, really. I feel like in the high heat, the smell would kind of drown out a little bit. And I feel like the same for like really cold temperatures. I think really cold temperatures would kill this as well. Moderate temperatures, you know, during the daytime in the winter, sure, if it's not super cold. Spring, you know, summer evenings, definitely. And throughout the fall, this will work perfectly. You know, like I said, I hate to paint a negative image of this because, you know, the smell itself is really good, really unique. Love it. It's just the performance is not where it needs to be. This definitely wears more of like an eau de toilette, maybe even an eau fresh, to be honest with you. Definitely not an eau de parfum. I mean, it's labeled as such, but it does not feel like that at all. Also, the maturity factor. It is a mature scent. I can't see anybody under the age of 30 enjoying this. You know, it has the elements of anise and the bitter cocoa, and of course the patchouli in the bottom. You know, this isn't for younger guys, it's for guys 30 plus. So you know what, maybe guys in that age range aren't really looking for a super loud fragrance anyway. And you know, the original Eau Extreme from 2005 is really hard to find, and when you can find it, usually people selling it on eBay or Amazon, the price is extremely inflated. If you're looking for the original Eau Extreme, but you just don't want to cough up several $100s to buy a vintage bottle, this is probably going to be your best bet, even though the performance is lacking on this, unfortunately, but the smell itself, really good. You can find this on FragranceNet right now for $92 US for a 100 milliliter bottle, and that's with the coupon. Now, if you ask me, I think that's a little bit expensive for what's being offered here. I don't think the performance justifies that price, to be quite honest with you. But if you really like the original version and you're willing to spend $90 for a 100 milliliter bottle, then definitely go for it. But I think that's going to be a small subset of the population who really enjoys that original DNA enough to go and buy this. I bought it because, first of all, in Europe here, it's cheaper than it is in the United States. And I was thinking I was going to be reminded of the original one in terms of, you know, performance and depth and just pure punch. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, although I do quite enjoy the smell. This is not one that I was super impressed with, unfortunately. So, you know, I'll leave it up to your discretion. You know, don't take my word to be law. Do your own research always. I've just given you my own opinion on the matter. But that is not the be-all, end-all. If you like this, go ahead, buy it. That's totally fine. It's a great scent at the end of the day. Anyway, guys, that's my review of L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum by Guerlain, obviously. So I hope you've enjoyed my review. I can't wait till next time, guys. Until then, keep it real.